Well, hello. Uh, as you can see, I am still pet sitting, and this time you do get to meet O'Malley. Um, you might even be able to hear Lena barking outside, and I now understand all you cat owners who can't get up because there's a cat on your lap, and it's too nice. So I'm not gonna go bring Lena in and tell her to quit barking because I have O'Malley. Anyway, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kara, and this is a channel I use to document a low-buy project for the year 2020. It's helping me to keep a tight budget, which is helping me to pay off some student loans. And this week, as well as last week, I've been house sitting and pet sitting for some friends of mine while they're out of town. Oh, thank you. You're done barking now. You might see Lena. Who knows? Could get awfully crowded on this couch. Um, but anyway, I have been pet sitting and not doing too much else. I know last week I shared that I recently started a relationship, and of course, that hasn't changed. I still am in that relationship, of course, and the more important part of it is that um, my boyfriend, I'm still getting used to the idea. My boyfriend has bone cancer, and he had that when I met him 2 years ago. And it's been a very difficult course for him, and he has had numerous treatments, and they have been failing over these 2 years. Anyway, last week he went from here in Idaho, he went to Seattle and expected to be there for a couple of weeks. And instead, he had a day full of appointments and consultations. And then they said, okay, that's it. We don't need to do anything until next week on whatever day you're getting this and this done. And he hates being in the city, so he came back. So instead of being away for a couple of weeks, he was gone for 48 hours basically. And so I have spent a lot of the rest of this week with him. And he left again today to do those other preliminary things that were scheduled before he enters into an experimental treatment. So now I really won't see him for maybe 2 weeks or so. Maybe he will get to come home briefly. Maybe he stays out there for months. We don't know. It all depends on what they find in these preliminary tests and appointments and all kinds of stuff. So I had a wonderful time with him this week, though. I mean, I still had my full-time job, and so in the evenings, and like, okay, so I'm in a relationship with an immune compromised person now, and as I have throughout the pandemic, I don't have much of a social life. I am not going out into public any more than necessary, and when I do, I wear a mask. I wear a mask at my job, and when I see my family, that's like my one weak point is that I do see my family, and while we're together, we're not distancing. We're not, my nephews and my niece are piling on me, and the saving grace is that they homeschool, and so my sister's family is not exposed very far. Um, she's at home with the kids all day, and when they need stuff, they've been doing like curbside groceries, and they don't do much either. They're very into their simple life at home, homeschooling and gardening and chickens and everything that they've got going on. Her husband has a job that thankfully has him working outdoors a great deal. Um, so I am exposed to them, but thankfully, due to their lifestyle and their work and their homeschooling, they're not exposed to very many people. Um, but it is the weak spot in my game plan, I guess. And now I'm in this relationship with a person who's extremely immune compromised and has to be very careful. And so we are. And it's just been interesting to think through all of the ways that we have to be careful and watch out for him. Um, But it was really fun this week. Okay, all this is to say, it was really fun this week to get to spend a surprise 4 more days with Gabe and to we went outdoors a bit. Like he's very tired and like I mean, he's got cancer. It's not good. I guess there was some test he had that if he had up to 10% cancer in this biopsy, that he qualified for this experimental treatment, right? And so we had this weird irony of, for a moment, hoping that he had enough cancer. And then he had like 78%. So that was ridiculous to worry, and he's certainly qualified for the experimental treatment, which is now what he's going to do. But to understand that, like, the tissue that was biopsied, 78%, and I'm not sure, and I don't know. I could never explain what that test was actually measuring, and but 78% when the threshold was 10, it's very concerning, and it's very severe. And this is after he's done chemo for years and has had a bone marrow transplant and other treatments. So every moment is important and every bit is wonderful. I'm totally having a glass of wine. Every bit of this time is so important and precious, and yet his body is, of course, fighting and failing him. And so we took some hikes, but they were the kind of hikes that you take tiny children on, like boardwalk, built up platform paths through the woods that lead to a tiny lake that's, it feels like it's 10 feet off the highway, We're doing stuff that isn't super outdoors, but it gets us fresh air, and he hates being indoors. He hates being in the city, and I miss him, and it must just be so boring to be in Seattle in a hospital when he would normally be backcountry skiing, and he would normally be hiking, and he would normally be going to hot springs, and he would normally be, just out there in the mountains with his dog and his son. And Lena, totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. Oh, thank you for telling us. Yes. There's somebody outside. Yeah, Lena. Thank you for telling me. Good girl. Oh, and it just started to pour raining. So anyway, what can I say? That's where I'm at right now. That this friend who I've cared about is now my boyfriend, who I love, and definitely cared about him and loved him before he was my boyfriend, but it took a long time to realize, like, oh yeah, duh, like, maybe we should be together. Yeah, so it's extra torture for him to not be able to access the wilderness the way he normally does, and that's like why he is here. He moved here from Atlanta 12 years ago in order to be in the outdoors. That whole, like, the mountains are calling and I must go, like, that's basically his life story. Is the mountains called him and he had to go, and he's been happy in them from the moment he got here, and now he's sick. Wow, it just started pouring out. All right. Anyway, I don't have much of an update other than that. I'm working and dog sitting and cat sitting and taking really short, ridiculous little hikes with Gabe, and now he's gone, and getting his treatment underway, and that's about it. So I'm going to say have a good week, and I will check in with you again later. I think October's kind of flying by. I think next week I might have my October statistics as far as how much I'm able to pay on my student loans and what % of my net income that is. And I did start a new challenge for the last 3 months of the year because there's still no interest on federal student loans. So, since in the past 6 months, because of the CARES Act, there was a 6 month relief from student loan interest, and I had set a goal in that time to pay off $10,000, and I did that. And since there's 3 more months, I thought about making it a $5,000 more as a goal, but I think 4,500 is more reasonable. So, excuse me, by the end of the year, I want to pay off $4,500 more on the loans that don't have interest right now. And so, as October comes to an end, I'll pay my bills and know how close and what kind of progress I'm making towards that new goal. That's it. That's the story. I hope you're having a good week, and I will see you next time.